So happy 70th Republic Day to everyone. And yeah, I'm Krutarth. I work here. I'm a software engineer at GeekyAnts. And today we'll be talking about what's new in React, what's the buzz, and what's the new exciting things are there. So yeah, let's start. So React 16.6, it came up with few and amazing things, and some of them are Memo, Lazy, and ContextType. So we'll start with Memo first. So Chaitanya talked about the optimization of the components, and I hope that we all have used class components versus functional components in React. So how do we create the pure component? Okay, so if we have to optimize the component, we know that we are not going to re-render it for unnecessarily. Then we can create a pure component, and if all of us are like too daring, then we can add should component update lifecycle method to that. So, but what if I have to achieve the same in functional manner? So earlier, you have to use third-party libraries for that, but now React.memo is there to save you. So React.memo takes argument as the functional component, and it translates this to pure component of if you create a class component. So that's about React.memo. It's really cool. You guys should check it out. Then next up is Lazy. So when you think about Lazy, what comes to your mind? Maybe this. Okay, not really. But yeah, whenever we load our component with import statement, and the moment my component gets rendered, it's the time that, of course, immediately loaded component will be there. And now there is a problem. So your app grows, your bundle grows, and it starts getting bigger, and then your initial loading time of your app also increases because your bundle size is big. So how we can do that? How we can solve that? Okay, so we can introduce code splitting there. So for code splitting, React introduced something amazing. It's React.Lazy. You can dynamically create import your component there, and now React knows that I have to create a separate bundle for this code. So this chunk will be loaded into the main bundle when the my component gets rendered. So for your initial app load time, the first time this won't be there, and that's how you prevent the unnecessarily used time of the initial app load. So yeah, but what if the lazy loaded component is still not ready because it's lazy, right? So we can use React.Suspense then, and we can wrap the React.Suspense component out of the lazy loaded component, and then we can show the fallback. It means that whenever your component is not ready to load, it will show the fallback. Maybe a loader, maybe a spinner, and so yeah, it's really cool because that's how you import a component dynamically in React. The third and next is ContextType. So for ContextType, we all know that when your app grows, it's like I can imagine it's because hundreds of components. You have to share the logic in between them, and then you create parent component and child component, and you keep going on. But we can save that as well by using ContextType. It's like really easy. You can do React.createContext. Here I am creating a context object, and later on I'll use this context object like this. So all of us know static prop types, right? So the way we use static prop types, that's the way we use context type as well. And this way your entire app can share the same context when you declare it. And then you can use it easily with this .context followed by the variable and followed by the states which you have used in context object. Okay, so now is the exciting time. It's 16.7 and beyond, and there are certain things that functional components didn't have the class component capabilities till 16.6, and that's how they are introducing the new concepts in 16.7 so that even functional components have the same capabilities. But before that, we need to identify the set of problems which currently exists in the React 16.6 prod and before that. So first of them is wrapper array. So you already talked, right, that there are like hundreds of components, and what is the reason for that? So the reason for that is components did not share the same stateful logic, and earlier there were mixins, but yeah, they're not anymore in prod. So, and there were mixins had their like own set of problems, but yeah, wrapper array is there because you cannot keep the word in mind, you cannot share the stateful logic. We can solve that as well. Then it creates the another problem, which is huge components. So what are huge components? You make sure that your component having rather than creating multiple components, you make one component which has the same logic, which reason about each other, but again the logic is separated into lifecycle methods across the entire file, and then it's like 500, 600 lines of code, so it's huge components. And then it's confusing classes. So classes are confusing for people, for developers, and for compilers as well. So why for developers? So those who come from Java background, those who come from object-oriented background, they can reason about classes manner. They can reason about why this and why binding works. But for those who don't come, like what they do, and they get really confused. For compilers, it's different. So have you ever looked at a minified class file? If you have ever looked at a minified class file, then we know that the component lifecycle methods, they don't get minified. That's there. And if we have created functions and we are not using those functions anywhere, but it cannot reason about which functions are not using, and packager don't split that code out. So it's again confusing for compilers. So that was the mentality of React community, that how we can solve these problems without not introducing mixins again and with another concept. So first is suspense. Okay, again suspense. So what comes to your mind? This? No, it's not like this. That suspense is that Katapana Bahubali Kyumara, but yeah. So earlier we talked about lazy loaded component, right? Keep that in mind. Now, what we are trying to achieve here is we are getting React.create root, and we are passing the root DOM reference in it, and then root.render. Simple, right? But what this does, it makes your entire app concurrent. It makes your entire app in async mode. So it's like defining the suspensifier at the root of your app, so that later on, when we write something like this, when we write the lazy loaded component and suspense, React knows that, okay, we can do something like max duration, we can declare the time there. What this means? This means if this component gets loaded before 1 second, then don't show the fallback. It's just there blank because no one likes spinner and loader, right? It's slow. And if it's not get loaded in 1 second, then show the fallback UI. So this is really working in a concurrent mode, and it's amazing that still it's in alpha, but yeah, we are looking forward to that. And now comes the gem, right? The gem of the entire buzz around the React community. Hooks. There are several things that why it's exciting. The hooks API is amazing, and there are certain advantages of that. We'll talk them one by one. So it's a new feature proposal available in 16.7 alpha. No, because the day before yesterday, the PR got merged, and yeah, it's in beta now. And it's about functional components. It's all about functional components having the class component capabilities, and it's completely opt-in. So after this meetup, you do not need to go to your code base and change the entire code base to functional manner, but yeah. So we'll be talking about two hooks, use state and use effect. There are certain around 9, but these two are the main. So first is use state. So earlier, whenever we write functional components, and then we have a rights to declare state in the functional component. I have to turn it to a class component now, or I have to use another head now. But no, with the use of useState, it translates to this dot state of class component. So it's nothing but a this dot state for class component, and we can do something like this. So I had a functional component add, and I was just showing a count there. And now to maintain that count, to maintain the state, I can use a useState. This is array destructuring of count and set count. Count is the variable which is our state, and set count is of course the setter of that variable. And the argument which useState takes is the initial state initialization of your variable. Okay, so we talked about single state. What about multiple states? If I want to have multiple states, okay, you can declare one useState, you can use it 9 times. So that solves that. It's about multiple state, and we can pass string, literals, or even object of array of objects as well. But again, what about if I have to introduce lifecycle methods? What about if I have to do something with the component when it mounts and unmounts? Okay, so you can reason about use effect that it's not equivalent of course it's equivalent of lifecycle methods, but it's much more than that. You can consider it as a side effect which runs every time when your functional component gets rendered or re-rendered. So this is the example. It's quite simple. So you can declare use effect hook. It takes one argument, which is a function, and this code will run each time, that it be the first render or the subsequent renders. And as you can see, it can be the replacement of component did mount and component did update. But what about the cleanup task? What about the event listeners that we have attached on did mount and did update? What about clearing them? Okay, so you can return a function, and the function which you are returning, it will perform all the cleanup tasks for you. It's called before every render, and so that's the equivalent of component will unmount. But again, optimization, right? So what if I don't want, because use effect will run after each subsequent render, and what if I don't want to do that? So now I can mention this, and use effect does not take one argument, it takes 2, and the first one is of course the function, and second is the array. In the array you can provide that, okay, if these variables do change, then only run this side effect. You can reason about it that way, that it's your should component update but in easier manner. So if the count changes, then run this side effect, otherwise don't do anything and don't render your functional component. Then someone will say, okay, I used to write my app such a way that I used to only use component did mount and component will unmount, and I don't have to do anything with component did update. Okay, then return the empty array pass the empty array in the second argument, and now this will think that there is nothing that changes, and I don't have to update it, but this side effect will run on each mount and unmount. Now there are certain rules of hooks. First, like you can call hooks only at the top level whenever you create your component, and you can only call hooks from React functions. Let it be functional components or custom hooks. Custom hooks. Okay. So custom hook is you can create your custom hooks with using the available hooks, and this is like use counter hook, and it's quite simple. I'm using the use state there, passing the initial value, increment, decrement are the 2 methods, and that's how I'm using it. So it's really amazing. You can think that what would you have done if this would be a class component? It would be like maybe 50 lines of file, and because that's how you manage everything. And this is the reason that my hooks are awesome, because of feature optimization. As we literally see that how the code gets reduced, and it's less code for developers and compilers as well. It's increased readability and better organization. So that's the referral I was talking about. This GIF is of Dan's talk in React.Conf 2018, where he explains that why hooks are awesome and introduced hooks. So this is class component, and now it turned to functional components. Yeah. So the same color lines, the same color code. This is the code which makes sense together. So for example, these are the normal state variables, maybe name and address and everything. Then these are the maybe event listeners, and then these are the API calls. Using hooks, everything comes together. Then they makes much more sense altogether. That's it. Thank you. This was really a concise 15-minute talk, so I couldn't explain it in detail. But yeah, check it out. The hooks API is really amazing, and I'm sure that you all guys will like it. If you have any questions, you can discuss after in the break.